This week on London Real, we have Mimi Ikonn, fashion blogger, YouTube inspiration, and co-founder of Luxy Hair.
When we had our own business, we just decided that we're going to do it the way it feels right. Provide value, make the product available. If people need to buy it, they will make that decision. You don't need to sell it to them. I think it's important never to compare yourself to anyone. Just focus on the value and the numbers will grow. Every single time I sit in front of the camera, I'm faced with the resistant voice. Because if you're not fulfilled, you can't give. That's most people say, oh, that's selfish. It's not. If you want to give to the world, you first have to give to yourself, because if you're empty, what will you give to the world?
London Real presents Mimi Ikonn, Dreamers and Creators.
No, it doesn't mean no. No just means try again.
London Real presents a gathering of the greatest minds in the history of our show, announcing a 3-day transformational experience live in London. Become part of the conversation. Challenge yourself. Upgrade your peer group. Change your game. What if you could be part of an elite network of individuals looking to significantly improve their business and personal lives? A place where you will meet future investors, collaborators, mentors, and allies. Learn from the best in the world how to scale your business, build your network, publish your book, and take your game to the next level. London Real Masterminds. Featuring an all-star lineup, including Elliot Holtz, Peter Joseph, Jeff Thompson, Mike Dolce, Chris Eubank, Tucker Max, Alex Ikonn, and many more. All battling it out in a 20-minute TED Talk style format for a $20,000 prize. Watch the speakers compete, network with an extraordinary group of professionals, and interact in roundtable discussions with our most famous London Real guests ever. It all happens at London Real Masterminds over 3 days at the 5-star Langham Hotel in London. But this isn't just an experience. It's a 1-year membership into an elite network of London Reelers that will become your future business partners, mentors, investors, and biggest supporters. Challenge yourself. Upgrade your peer group. Change your game. Become real. London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof. This week on the show, we have one of my most favorite women in the whole world, and that is Mimi Ikonn. She is a global citizen, a fashion blogger, a YouTube inspiration, and also the co-founder of Luxy Hair, which she created with her husband, Alex Ikonn, who you would have seen on the show probably about 6 months ago. We had a fantastic time talking with him. And Mimi has a fascinating story. First of all, their business on YouTube is just incredible. They have over 2.7 million subscribers, which, just to give you an idea, is a lot more than we have here at London Real. And they created this business about 4 or 5 years ago, and now they can pretty much live wherever they want in the world. And they moved to London about a year and a half ago, and I've gotten to know them quite well. And what I like more about them than their entrepreneurial acumen is just they're just such warm-hearted, giving people, both of the Ikonns. And Alex has been a real inspiration to me, and a lot of help also behind the scenes. And Mimi is just a great presence, and she has a really wonderful energy about her. And you might have gotten to know Mimi with the multiple videos that she produces every week, whether it comes to how she styles her hair or how she does her personal fashion. But she she has a lot of very deep videos as well about how she lives her life, how she uses meditation, how she stays positive, how she doesn't watch the news, and it goes on, and we go very deep into these pieces, from when she was a little girl in Azerbaijan to moving to Toronto to meeting Alex and at first not wanting to date him, and it's just a great story. And she goes into how she finally went 10 days at a Vipassana meditation retreat where you talk to no one. And so Mimi, don't let the pretty face fool you. She is a driven woman, and at the end of the interview you can really see how she really grasps life and takes it so seriously with her business and her agency, Dreamers and Creators. So there you go. I will leave you now to spend some time with Mimi, but it was a real honor, and I just love having strong women on this show who have a mission and a sense of purpose, and I feel like we can learn so much from her. So very honored to have her on there. I hope you are now watching this on the London Real Academy, which is the greatest place to watch our full episodes without any pop-ups or any interruptions. It's just been an incredible creation, almost as incredible as the show London Real for me, because I never knew there was this much positivity inside of the community. And the Academy is for those very hardcore London Reelers who want more, who want to better themselves, who want to communicate with each other. And inside the Academy, if you want to become a founding 500 member, we have an amazing social network of where we all keep each other accountable and we all demand action, but we do it with love and respect, and we have to have a lot of fun. You've probably watched one of my weekly webinars that I'm doing now, and you can catch all the lessons and ideas, and you can see the feedback, and you can ask me questions, and I'm just blown away by the incredible community that we've created, and I encourage you to come and be a part of it. It'll change your life. It'll 10x your game this year, I guarantee. And if you're a bit hesitant, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee, just in case you're not sure. And you can take a look around inside, and if for some reason you don't like it, it's no problem. We'll refund your money. You can go on your way. But in addition to the amazing amounts of premium content like live episodes, success secrets like the piece you'll see here from Mimi Ikonn, premium content, pieces of our live day with Dan Pena at the Ritz. It's more than just that. It's really this sense of community. So I hope you come over and check it out. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy meeting this incredible woman named Mimi Ikonn. London Real Academy. Build the best you.
When I go in and look at a person or a business, I want to hear him talk about his dreams.
Am I living in alignment to the way I want to be living? And there's a feeling you get if you're not.
A community of action-oriented people that will keep you accountable to your goals. Sign up now for a free 30-day trial. London Real Set Design by Timothy Olton. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Mimi Ikonn, who is a global citizen, fashion blogger, YouTube inspiration, and the co-founder of Luxy Hair, the customer-centric hair extensions e-commerce retailer, which you created 5 years ago with your husband Alex Ikonn, that makes millions of dollars per year. You have a powerful footprint on YouTube with 2.7 million subscribers, watching your videos over 250 million times. That's about 10 times more, no, 25 times more than London Real. You're originally from Baku, Azerbaijan, and moved to Toronto at age 16 with nothing. Mimi, welcome to London Real.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today, seriously.
Thank you. You know, we cleaned the setup a little bit. We wanted to make it nice before you came over.
It looks great. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So much to talk about. You know, I want to talk about Luxy Hair. I want to talk about your videos, a little bit about Alex, YouTube. I want to talk about your Dreamers and Creators agency for entrepreneurs. But before we do all that,
lots to cover.
Yeah, I know. Lots to cover. I was wondering if you could take me back to Baku in Azerbaijan. I looked it up today on the map. It's right on the...
small.
It's small. It's like on a peninsula or something, right? It's on the Caspian Sea. It's right next to all the bad places we hear about, right? Iran is there, and Kazakhstan, and Russia, and Chechnya. But what's it really like?
It's really changing at the moment. I really love it because in a way it's like right in between Europe and Asia, so you get a sense of both, especially now when you travel there. It's like it's very modern but yet old at the same time. But growing up there was a bit of an experience because when I was born in USSR, so Russian was the main language, and I went to school, let's say, with Russian being my main language. But then when I was about 5, 6 years old, that's when USSR broke down and the whole war happened, and it was just a mayhem for a little period of time. I was too young to remember too much, but I just remember it being a bit scary and overwhelming.
Was it like a control between locals and the Russian government? Or was
Yes,
it just a power vacuum?
yeah. When everything broke down, it was a bit of a war, and yeah, it was just a bit scary, especially for adults. I can imagine now. I mean, me and my sister were just looking out. I mean, there was 1 or 2 days where, I don't know if it was, I can't remember all the details, but the Russian troops or Armenian troops, they entered the city and they were just like shooting people on the street. But me and my sister just looked around and were like, oh my God, what is this? Like, we didn't understand, because at that age, you don't understand the concept of death or mortality. So we were just like, this is awesome. And just the look on my mom's face was probably like, holy, what is going on? Because for my parents, it was probably like the end of the world. Like, they grew up in USSR, so for them, their country breaking down must have been horrific. I can't imagine. So yeah, I mean, that aside, that didn't last for a long time. Then Azerbaijan became an independent country, and there's still a lot of changes. It's becoming its own thing. And I moved a while ago. I mean, I've been living outside of there for the last almost 13 years now. So I'm like a mix of things, because I grew up in Azerbaijan, but then I feel I am Canadian by my passport, because I lived in Canada for 11 years, and now I feel very much British now that I live here. So I consider myself definitely a global citizen, but I'm grateful that I was born and raised in Azerbaijan, because it gives me that understanding of the Asian culture, as well as now the westernized, the East and the West.
Right, and then kind of that, it's kind of got that kind of former Soviet Union kind of feel. People kind of get on with things there, right?
Yeah, they're just used to, hardships happening, because they have to live through a lot of them. So they're just a lot more resilient. It's funny, because me and Alex, my husband, were talking about this recently. How in America everything is so comfortable for the most part, and people are used to doing things a certain way. It's a bit in a box to me, coming from the East still. That's how I view it. So when something that like 9/11 happens, which I think is one of the most horrific things that happened in my lifetime, people really don't know what to do. They're completely lost. Where in countries like Azerbaijan, where you've lived through the war, it's like nothing phases you anymore. That's kind of a sad thing, I guess, in a way. But you become more resilient, and you learn to think outside of the box. You're not always looking for a manual or for somebody to tell you what to do. You just kind of start thinking for yourself, and your survival instinct just kicks in, and you figure out things to do to survive, really.
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend Mariana, and she's from Bulgaria, and so I always get this feeling with her that they just get on with it. Like, there's not a lot of talk about, ups and downs, or they don't dwell on the past tragedies. It's just kind of like we deal with it and move forward. It's kind of refreshing.
It is, because I've never heard of the term depression or anxiety until I moved to Canada. Like, it's just, people are just grateful to just,
Is there a word in
things
Azerbaijan
have changed.
for that?
Again, like, I can't comment on the way the country is now, because I haven't been living there for the last, 13 years. But the way I grew up was just, we didn't know those terms. You just kind of like make the best of today. If there's food on your table, you're happy. And that is it. That's all I remember from my childhood.
Talk to me about growing up, because you have a brother or sister? Or sister?
It's me and my
sister,
Layla, yeah.
And you shared a one-bedroom place with your parents, and that means everybody in a one-bedroom place. So
Mostly.
Not a lot of space. What was that like growing up? I mean, you were there till you were 16, right?
Yes. I mean, growing up, you don't realize, because you don't have much to compare with. Well, we started comparing once we started being exposed to like American movies and all these things you see on television. You're like, oh, I want to have this. I want to go to this amazing high school, or I want to have my own room. But yeah, like, my parents pretty much slept in the living room. We had 2 separate couches, so they didn't even have a bed for themselves, but they gave us their bed, where me and my sister slept until, we moved from there. So I didn't realize even the sacrifice until now, almost, like, becoming aware of, wow, they gave us their bed so that we can have a proper bedroom and a bed, and they slept on very uncomfortable couches. But again, as a kid, you're not aware. You don't have that sense of awareness yet. But I'm very grateful now. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I appreciate that.
What do you think would happen to you if you'd stayed?
You know what, Brian? I always knew I wouldn't. Since I was a little girl, and same with my sister, all I remember, since I can remember myself thinking, is that I want to travel the world, and that, like, I never had a sense of nationality. I didn't feel like I am Azeri just because, like, I just felt like I need to get out and I want to travel. I want to fly like a bird. I want to explore all kinds of cultures. That was me until even 16. I haven't traveled anywhere until the age of 16. The first time I got on a plane was my family immigrating to Canada, and I was the happiest human being on earth because I was daydreaming about that for the first 16 years of my life. So, yeah, I don't know.
But there is a lot of nationality in Azerbaijan.
Yes, especially now. I
nationalistic.
feel like after USSR broke down, people started speaking more of the native language, which is Azeri. People went more into religion, and yeah, now there's a very strong sense of, oh, Azeri, and this is what I stand for. But I don't know, I just personally, I never had that growing up. I just always saw like, I'm a global citizen, and I can't see why other people can't see that or think that way. But again, it's just, to me, that was all that existed, is like, there's a world and there's humans. I don't see countries and borders as a set thing, and that you have to follow that just because you're French. I mean, just because you were born in France, you're French, or if you're born in Azerbaijan, you're Azeri.
And was it the American movies that made you want to go to America, or were you always like, I'm going to go travel everywhere? It's hard to get away from the Hollywood.
Yes, I think traveling was always something I wanted to do. America was attractive to me because we were exposed to all these American movies, and Backstreet Boys was something me and my sister was obsessed about. So that's kind of how we started like learning English language. We would translate the lyrics and word by word learn to speak English.
So you knew English pretty well before you went to Toronto?
Yes, I knew it pretty. I couldn't speak well. I could write really well because I remember coming to Canada in grade 10, and I had to do this test that everyone has to do in grade 10, Canadians or immigrants. And some of the Canadians that I had in my class failed, and I passed, even though I couldn't speak well because I never really got a chance to speak to anyone in English. I mean, we had tutors that me and my sister would go to, but it's different when you're actually, conversing in that language with natives.
Right. What's your relationship like with your accent?
I love my accent. You know what? I've gotten to love it. I remember when I just moved to Canada, I was super insecure to even speak. Like, I could understand anything, I could write, but when it came to speaking, I would always feel insecure because I wanted to sound like everybody else. Only in the last few years, I would say, I love it, and I actually don't want to lose it. I love that it's unique and it's different. I think accent is something, it's like your face. It's something that makes you unique. I wouldn't want to change my face. It's what makes me Mimi. So same with the accent. I feel like if I lost it, I would be just like everybody else, but I like being different, so.
Yeah, Ariana Huffington said something similar. I think she was going to speech lessons, like, 10 years ago, and like her husband turned to her and it was just like, what are you doing? This is your IP. This is your USP.
Absolutely.
This is your asset.
Or Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love his accent. It's what makes him Arnold.
Right. Yeah. Whenever someone with a funny name or a funny accent says they hate it, I'm like, okay, Schwarzenegger and the accent. So kind of enough said, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't even think about my accent anymore. I feel like I'm British. I'm like the cat in the house that thinks he's a human. That's me in Britain. I'm like, I'm British, but I don't even think about it.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. I think it's what makes you unique. People always ask me like, oh, where are you from? I can't figure it out because of your accent. So it's like a conversation starter. So I find that it's...
I actually didn't, when I first started watching some of your videos, I didn't even connect that you were from somewhere like other than America.
What did you think?
I don't know, I was just like, there's Mimi, she's talking about cool stuff. And then later when I heard you say Azerbaijan, then I kind of heard the accent, which is strange,
So you just hear like Canadian, American.
Yeah.
Because here people, that's what they would say. They would say, are you American?
Yeah.
Because they kind of put us all in the same category.
Yeah, kind of throw us there.
I'm like, Canadian, but it doesn't matter.
So talk to me about Canada versus America. I guess you went to Toronto for like an immigration thing because that was something you do. And why go? I mean, why go? That's a big move for your parents.
Since we were little, again, me and my sister wanted to move and live in different places. So we communicated to our parents that as soon as we turn 18, we're out of here. At least that's what I told my parents. And they could tell that we were serious. So my dad was thinking about different ways and where we could immigrate. US is quite difficult, even now. The only way you can really move there if you win a green card or if you get some kind of a work permit, which wasn't the case for my father or my family. So Canada was very attractive at the time. And I remember my father applying, and we waited 3 years, literally 3 years, paid a whole lot of money. I think my dad had to sell a few things or spend all his savings. And then you're just waiting. You don't know if you're gonna get a yes or a no. So you kind of like have this, just this feeling. You don't really know if you're gonna live here or live there. And I just remember getting a visa, and we had a month or something, like a very short period of time where we had to sell everything and go. It was exhilarating for me and my sister, again, because we were kids and we didn't have to deal with all the responsibilities of selling the house, selling everything that we had, and packing it all in a few suitcases and moving across the world to a completely different place.
So your parents kind of sacrificed this for you?
I believe they did, but I also feel like my parents wanted an adventure, especially my father. He's a very adventurous man. He's, studied in Russia. He's traveled a lot, so he says that it was his idea, not necessarily something we forced upon him. Of course, we never did that, but we always communicated that we want to live in the West. That was very appealing to us.
I was reading Andre Agassi's autobiography.
Very
recently.
interesting. Yeah.
He's Armenian, right? Or his
Yes,
parents.
yes,
and
Armenian.
Again, I felt like the parents, like the big sacrifices for the children.
It's
everything.
in the culture.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. They'll
Very
just
much so.
do whatever it takes
Yeah.
to get
And
you
then
guys.
they tell you about it. I did it for you, so
Then
you
they-
should be this way.
They
It's
make you pay for it. So, so you moved to Canada, and then you became a millionaire, and everything was great.
Right, that's not exactly the order. And I wanted it to be that way. You know what? Because when things come easy, you don't appreciate them as much.
So what happened in Canada? What was it like?
First of all, yeah, we wanted to move to US, but because
Right.
because Canada was the easy way to get there to the to the Western world or to North America, that was the option for us. And I loved living in Canada. It wasn't exactly how I imagined it. I remember arriving there and thinking, because Toronto is a very modern city, and I think I had in my mind a mix of US and UK. Because I remember when I first came to UK just for a visit, I was like, I think I thought I imagined US or Canada being like UK. But anyways, as a kid, your mind is very confused with all the messages you get through the media. So I was a bit shocked at first and overwhelmed by the new surrounding, but at the same time, very, very excited, because you can imagine it was something I've dreamt of my whole life. However, I had to overcome a lot of obstacles, like going to high school and learning to fit in, especially this was grade 10. So everyone already had their cliques and friendships, and just coming as an alien where you dress and talk differently. I was just excited, and I knew it wouldn't last a whole lifetime. However, yeah, there was a lot of difficult times where you feel like, you're an immigrant and everyone is looking at you like you're weird. But you overcome that. That's the beauty of it. I think through life, whenever I am faced with hardships, I always try to focus on the positive, and sometimes it's difficult, but if you focus on the positive, it just feels a bit easier, I feel. So.
Do you think your fashion sense comes from the fact that you went to Canada and all of a sudden, like, all of the Azerbaijan fashion is probably not cool, and you had to like really think about, like, do I want to fit in or do I want to be my own? Do you think that affected you?
I'm very weird when it comes to fashion. I remember in Azerbaijan, women actually dress up very much. So they spend a lot of time into putting makeup on and dressing up. When I lived there, I would actually dress very casually. So the way my mind works is that I try to be different. It's something subconscious that goes on in my brain. I just became aware of it. So in Canada, because people are more casual, I actually wanted to dress up. So I think, yeah, partly because I moved there, I wanted to dress up because I knew how to do it, because I've observed it all my life until I was 16, but I never did it there. But when I moved to Canada, I was like, now I can do this here, because I don't know, I'm a Leo by horoscope, and it's not like I really believe in horoscopes, but Leos like to be the center of attention, so I like being different, and I like to stand out of the crowd. I think it's a great thing to stand out.
Right, and I'd say in London you have that kind of North American look. Like you dress a little more casual than, say, someone purely British or
Maybe,
someone
yeah,
from France.
yeah.
and you kind of pull it off that way.
I think it's a great mix here because yeah, I can switch from casual to a bit more dressy smart, as they like to say it.
Right. Okay, so you're in Canada. You start working during high school. Everyone, I'm guessing, everybody works in your family, kind of at that point. Working jobs, you waitressing.
It was a bit difficult at first because again, my parents had to start from scratch, and my dad had a great job in Azerbaijan. He would travel, he worked for BP, and then he comes to Canada and he's a nobody. So he had to work security jobs. My mom would clean houses. It was difficult. I just remember even going to my parents one time because all my friends were going to the movie theater and asking them for like $10 so I can go see a movie. And they just looked at me and said, sorry, I can't. Like, we don't have this kind of money. Whatever money we have, we're spending it to feed. And of course, they didn't even need to explain it. They just said no. And I remember going to my room, just locking the door and crying my eyes out because I felt for a second like a victim. But then as soon as I felt that way, I realized, you know what? I don't need to be a victim. I can go and make my own money. Actually, this is great because I never want to depend on anyone, including my parents. So this from a young age of 16 taught me a huge lesson where I said, you know what, I'm gonna go work whatever jobs, I'm gonna make money, and you know what, I actually will help my parents because they brought me here. So I started working first I was, I think, just babysitting some kid, around the block, so that was my first gig, and I got some cash. I was like, this is great, I can go to the movies.
That first like $50 you make.
Oh my God, it was amazing. Yeah, and then worked at fast food place for like another year or so, then got a restaurant job. I loved waitressing because I just love people. I love being around people. I get energized by just serving people and being with people. So yeah, I worked in restaurant industry for a long time, and then I got a job at a bank while I was in high school. I just remember in grade 12, I was like, I don't know, you tell me if you're the same way, but it's like, I don't know if it has to do anything with being an entrepreneur, but I never enjoyed school. I could never fit in that box of education system where everything is taught the same way to everyone. I just remember always being restless in class and waiting for it to end. So in grade 12, I was like, oh, I just had enough of this. I need to get out. And I found out about co-op, which is great. You can get outside of school, you can get credits, so I can still graduate, and I can get real work experience. So that's how I got into banking, and then they really liked me, so they hired me right out of high school.
Okay, so co-op, so you're in high school and you work, and
yes.
So you wanted out of high school. You didn't like the structure,
so bad.
You didn't like being treated the same way as everyone else, the assignments. That's not the way you learn.
Yeah, I'm very, it's a textile, like when you have to touch and when you have to be actually doing something. I can't just sit still for like hours in a chair. Even now when I work on a computer, I feel like I get up, I sit down, I need to move around a lot. I think it's because my mind is very active. And I think that's why now like they label kids like, oh, you're ADD, but I think it's just people have different ways they learn things.
Right. You met Alex at the bank.
Yes.
CIBC, very nice Canadian bank,
yes.
Right? And you guys met there, and you were what, 18, 19, this age?
He's a year younger, so I think when we met, I was probably, I'm so bad with like, we don't count years, how long we've been together, so it's a bit of a blur, but I think I was about 20 and he was 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere along those lines.
Okay, now Alex is Russian.
Yes.
But you wouldn't know it unless you, does he have a little bit of an accent?
He's got a little bit, I think.
Tiny, okay.
You could probably tell better than me because I'm not a native English speaking person.
I mean, like, is there any fate that he's Russian and you're Azerbaijan, or were you just?
I never thought I would be with a Russian person. I can tell you that. Not because I have any stereotypes towards Russian people. I just always thought I want somebody different and from the Western world. Where with Alex, it's like the best of both worlds because he's so, in his mind, he's so international, and yet he understands. We kind of grew up, we feel like we grew up in the same culture because, yeah, USSR had very similar culture. We watch the same cartoons, movies, we use the same words, so it's very familiar and comfortable. And yet, yeah, he's very global, just like myself.
He moved to Canada when he was, how old?
10, I believe,
okay,
yeah,
10.
Very young.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about it on his episode, but he talked about it a couple times in some of the videos you guys made, which gave me some nice ammo. Thank you for that. But he talked about his childhood, and it's fascinating because a lot of people would see Alex on the surface, and he looks like he could be American.
Yeah.
He looked like he could be the prom king, and all the things that he talks about. But Alex is, he's been through hard times and knows that whole struggle, not to mention coming from the culture where people don't celebrate the struggle, they just get through it.
And they don't talk about it.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you don't want to be seen as weak.
Right.
Right.
But there's also something comforting being around someone that knows that deal, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but you guys didn't hit it off right away.
No, we did
Okay.
not. At first, we were just friends. I think at first I wasn't happy that somebody who speaks Russian got into the bank, because I had all my Russian customers, and then I was like, no, he's actually really cool. So I changed my mind really quickly about him, and then we actually quickly became good friends, and we would talk about, traveling. We have so many different common interests that it was hard not to talk at work.
Do you speak Russian at work?
We would mix. We
Okay.
mix.
Do you
Mainly, we spoke English then, but
Okay. What about now?
we mix Russian and English. It's like, I don't know, it's maybe 70% English, 30% Russian.
Okay.
So there's quite a lot of Russian still.
Okay. So you started talking at work.
Yeah, we started talking at work. We were still dating other people at the time, and then I broke up with the guy I was dating. He broke up with the girl he was dating, and it just naturally progressed. Actually, at the time, I don't know if I want to go into the details because this is going to be a very long video, but really quickly, I decided at one point to move back to Azerbaijan.
Oh.
And I wanted to go ice skating, so I told Alex, I want to go ice skating. If you can get me skates, we can go together. Just like friends. But in his mind, it was like green light. And yeah, he got me skates and we went ice skating, and that was the first date, I guess you can say.
And that kept you from going back?
No, I went back, and
Okay.
in that short period of time, I thought I was moving for good. I quit my job, sold my car, everything. I think I did it because I was just overworked and burnt out at like 22. So sad. But I moved back and I realized I just changed too much as a human, and yeah, I didn't see myself staying there for a long time. So within a month, I decided that I want to go somewhere else. It was either Dubai or London, because I've always wanted to go to London, even then. And I just remember thinking that maybe Canada is the right place, because we already started dating, and I went back to Canada, which I think was the greatest decision, because then we really started dating and grew from there as a couple.
Okay, and is this before or after you were trying to get into that kind of government program that helped you?
This is way before.
That. Okay.
So when I quit the bank, I moved back to Azerbaijan. I was there for just about a month, and then I'm like, oh, it's fine, I made a mistake, I'm moving back to Canada. And I moved back to Canada, and then I actually got promoted at a bank, but I just knew that my heart wasn't there. I'm not gonna stay there for long. And then, as you may know already, Alex got fired from the bank for having a side business.
Okay, no, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. I thought
what
you
a great
guys
badge of courage that is, right?
Yeah, he had a side business which was like selling cars from US to Russia, and he was doing it during his work hours. Okay. And then the corporate security was checking all the emails. And one day they just came in and said, you gotta go.
Okay.
You can't do this. And but it taught him a great lesson, because Alex before wanted to be an investment banker, so he really wanted to grow in that ladder in the bank. And when he got out of the system, he said, you know what, I just want to do my own thing now. So I think it's definitely it was one of the best things that actually happened to him. He says it himself. And then at the same time, I decided that, okay, this is the right time for me to also leave the bank and really just follow my heart and see where I want to go. What about what I want to do in life that I'm actually passionate about? Because banking was fun because of the people in the team, but it was never something I loved doing.
Right. Alex says that like back then you two would go on these gratitude walks, and you would. Tell me if I'm wrong, but he said you would walk around and just be grateful for all these wonderful things you had when you were probably too still broke as a joke. I don't know. And he said one time his dad called him or something.
My dad.
Your dad called you. What are you doing? And your dad we're having you in our gratitude walk.
Yeah, we're in a gratefulness walk, and he's like, "What gratefulness walk? You guys need to get a job. What are you doing?" And now my dad can see that it works. It's one of the most powerful exercises you can do.
Okay, can you break it down for us?
Yes, it's not something we've invented. We got it from Tony Robbins, actually. Okay. If you do his, I think, Get the Edge 10-day program, on day one, he talks about gratefulness walks, which is very simple. Every day you go for a walk. You can do it alone or you can do it with your partner. And the way you start it is you just start saying things that you're grateful for that you already have in your life. So you could say, I'm grateful for my body, I'm grateful for my eyesight, I'm grateful for, this beautiful city that I live in. So you start with things that are in the present, then you can move on to I'm grateful for my partner, I'm grateful for my friends and family. And then the magic part here is that you start saying things that you're grateful for that you don't have, but you want to manifest in your life. So we would go on these gratefulness walks while we're broke and just completely lost, don't know what we want to do in life. And we would say things like, I'm grateful for having this amazing business. I'm grateful for, that we get to travel the world together and that we're financially free and we have this beautiful home and all these things that we wanted to experience and live. And Brian, now, years later, it's crazy to think that we're here and beyond what we've even dreamt of or imagined. So we've used this exercise at different points of our lives, and it's extremely powerful and it works every single time.
Is it it's like an affirmation a bit, but you kind of warm it up?
It is actually, very much so. You warm it up and you do it daily and you put a lot of energy into it. Like, I think it's easy when you do it with a partner because otherwise you're like alone walking. You can pretend you're talking on a phone like with the headphones, but you really gotta like feel it. Like as you're walking, you say it and you feel it. And we would do it for a few months and then we would stop, but things would manifest in like a year or two. And then we would realize that they did and we would restart the practice, but we would already ask for different things. And again, then they would come true. It's truly incredible. I think I'm not doing it at the moment, but me and Alex were talking about restarting the practice because it's just been life-changing for us.
Yeah, I think it's super powerful. Would you make new ones up every day, or would you kind of say the same ones back and forth to each other?
Because you can't say the new ones.
Right, till
you can change it slightly, but kind of you focus on the same vision. It's like you envision something and then you say it. You say it, and that's why I think after a few months we would give it a break, and then the universe or whatever goes out and starts to slowly manifest the right people, the right events, and then you realize a year or two later that, whoa, I am here. This is what I was envisioning. I think it goes hand in hand with having a strong vision. So it's using affirmations and the vision in a gratefulness walk.
Yeah. I've been doing, so the last 7 months when I walk to the tube in the morning, I pull out my phone and I have my list of, I call them affirmations, but they're not really, but it's this, I'm talking about the things I have now in a really positive way. And my fears, I talk about them as if I'm over them. So I'm just like, I am excited to do this when normally I wouldn't like it. And I've noticed this crazy correlation. And the other day I'm like, wait a second, you're actually doing some of these things. And it's weird.
That is so cool.
And so now I know exactly what you're feeling. A lot of people will be like, Mimi's crazy. But it's like,
like my dad.
Yeah, your dad. It does so many things on the psychological level. It tricks your brain into thinking it's true, but then it tells you that you can do it. It's like it empowers you. It puts a goal. It does so many different things. Super powerful tool. Yeah, I love it. And I just changed mine up a little bit. I actually surprised myself in the morning. I'm saying them and I'm like, oh, that's going to be fun when that happens. I mean,
Yeah, once you get on a roll, it's so much easier. It's just the initial start point.
Right. All right, so you and Alex are together now. I guess should we fast forward to Luxy Hair, or should we talk about a couple other things that happened before that?
We can fast forward, I guess, to Luxy Hair.
Okay, but there was, I mean, like, it's interesting because when I asked you about like some of your greatest accomplishments in your life, one of them was your tenacity when you were going after this program in Canada. I think you should talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk.
I think a lot of people find it fascinating when you talk about your failures and struggles, and I know you know this.
Because people don't often talk about it.
They don't often talk about it.
It.
And you're on YouTube with this amazing videos you do of your life and your thoughts and a lot of your philosophies, and I get it to a certain extent too. I did a webinar last night and I talked about how I used to be broke and American Express had a hitman looking for me, and people are like, you? But it's like, but you, so refreshing. You're like, I used to work in a fast food restaurant. A lot of people where you are now wouldn't say that.
And I'm proud of it. That's the thing, Brian. I believe that if you can be proud doing any job, you can grow to anything. Like if you can sweep the floor and be passionate about sweeping the floor, then you will grow eventually. But if you're sweeping the floor and you're like, oh, this is so beneath me, with that kind of attitude, you will not grow. So it's all about the attitude. If you take pride in your work, regardless of what work it is, you guaranteed through hard work and persistence, of course, and vision, because you got to have a vision. I think that's still very important. You can't be like, okay, I love this, but I'm going to keep doing this. Well, if that's okay with you, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to grow, you can be sweeping the floors, but having a vision of being a superstar or this author or a doctor or whatever it is that you want to be in life, and you will surely get there. However, you have to appreciate the small things in order to get to the big things. One cannot exist without the other.
So tell me what happened with this program.
So after I quit the bank, Alex got fired. We found out about this program, which was super cool funded by Canadian government. Love you, Canada. It's sort of a mentorship, and they also pay you not a small amount. It was like not a couple grand, but it was like maybe $1,500, enough for you to pay the rent and survive. And the best part, of course, is the mentorship. But all you have to do is present them with a business plan. For me, I got certified as an imaging consultant. I dropped out of my international business degree when I was doing college at one point. We didn't talk about that, but I just want to mention that I dropped out because I was doing international business, and I realized if I really want to do business, I'm just going to hire somebody to do, let's say, accounting, because I was working 2 jobs and I was going to school, and it was just a bit too overwhelming, paying for everything and trying to help my parents. And I realized, if you want to do business, you really don't need to be in business school. And I think that was one of the best decisions I've done in my life. I do love education, and I'm still learning and growing, and I think education is something you have to do for the rest of your life. So after I quit the bank,
I guess that didn't hinder your career as an international businesswoman.
Exactly.
Which is what you
Funny
are.
enough,
Okay.
yeah, I got right on. And then I remember finding out about image consulting school, and I really love fashion. I've always enjoyed visual things, so I went for that. And that was the first time in my life where I truly enjoyed school. So after I finished image, it's just a certification degree, sort of. It's something you can do within half a year. So once I got certified as an image consultant, we found out about this program, and I thought I'm perfect for it because I created my business plan. I have a certification as an image consultant. I applied, and I got denied. And I just couldn't understand why I'm being denied, because I have all the paperwork, everything. So I apply again, and I get denied again. And at that point, the money was running out. So I remember just getting this phone call from the head of the program, who tells me you're rejected for like the 3rd time. And I hang up, and I'm in tears. Alex was in the room, so he just kind of figured out the situation, and he said, you can't give up, you can't give up. At that point, I realized for me, it's like either going back to the corporate or fighting for this opportunity, because it will give me some time for me to figure out and actually create this business and try my own thing. And I remember just dialing, I didn't even remember her name because I was so shocked about the whole news. So I called her back, and I said, I think her name was Pamela, because she introduced herself again. I said, Pamela, you have to give me another chance. I know I can do this. And she said, okay, just like that. All it took was a phone call. And she said, yeah, you got to do this other exercise, so just send it to me by Monday. I did the exercise, sent it to her on Monday. 10 minutes after she received that email, she said, you're approved. She didn't have the time to look over the exercise. All she wanted to do is see somebody persistent. And that program really allowed for me to have some space, because before I was working too many jobs to have any time to even think, what do I want to do? So that program allowed for me to have a space to think about my passions and actually start doing something about it. So image consulting was my first business. So I did some fashion styling, image consulting. And
have you used that lesson since, as in like, be persistent, make that phone call, not take a no for an answer?
It's totally changed my life and outlook on life. It's just no, it doesn't mean no. No just means try again. So that's how I look at it.
Does it ever mean no? No.
You can try until you decide it's a no, right? Like,
right.
It's truly up to you. And same thing with asking somebody out. Alex asked me out, he didn't ask after that date when he was trying to put more serious moves on me. I shot him down like 4 times. Many people don't know this. But he was persistent enough to telling me, about the vision and that he can see us together. And at one point I was like, whoa, I can see it too now. So it was the persistence. And I think when you really want something, you have to prove that you are worthy, that you are the one. And I think too often people nowadays just give up when they get one no. They're like, okay, well, somebody else is going to get that person or that job or that program.
You mentioned vision now twice. Can you just talk about what that word means? Do we talk about it enough?
But don't talk about it enough. I think, oh my God, it's like, when you're a kid and you daydream. Do you remember daydreaming as a kid?
Yeah.
What would you daydream about?
Being rich. And then I'd wake up and I'd realize I wasn't. But that's what I used to daydream about. I know, it's a little twisted.
But I think that's the thing. And I think you've attained a certain, you've attained a lot of financial success. But now it's not about just having one vision. As kids, we can have a vision. And when we get there, we realize, okay, we fulfilled this vision. Now we have to continue daydreaming. That's the thing. Many people just daydream as kids, and then maybe they'll get there by 20, 30, and they're like, well, this is not making me happy, and then they'll just get stuck there. But it's about keeping the daydream going, like keeping that vision, the dreaming, and believing and seeing that picture clear, not stopping, because of course you change, and as you change, your vision will change. So that's something that has to be constantly evolving, I believe.
And we're all attracted to people with a vision, aren't we? You were attracted to Alex with a vision of the two of you, and like there's very few people in this world that have really passionate visions, right? So you tend to notice them and
because their eyes are sparkly.
Right. Yeah, and they just have this eternal optimism, and it's attractive and kind of addictive being around these people.
And it's the people that form the world, as the people with vision, good or bad vision. That's why it can be actually dangerous. That's why everyone has to use it, and hopefully use it in a positive way, because if you use it in a positive way, we can make this world so much of a better place. But it's the lack of vision that gets people kind of stuck at some points in their life, and then they could spend the whole life like that, just stuck in that unhappy mode or unsatisfied career or relationship or whatever it may be.
I was reading an article recently, and I just realized Alex had sent it to me. So it was a plant for this interview, and it said, as an entrepreneur, you have 3 jobs. To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there, and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there. To be really honest, before I did my TED Talk,